Canada is the top investor in New Zealand, not China, accounting for 22% of foreign investment. What did you make of this, David Shearer? Were you surprised?
Not really, because Canada basically made 2 huge purchases, so it sort of skewed the results. But I mean, this is not about housing. This is about land, and the thing that worries me is that
a controlling stake, though, in the giant Kaingaroa forest. Should that be allowed?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's one of those things that if you actually had a controlling stake and you had a long-term horizon in terms of forestry, you'd be able to put in place value-added products rather than shipping logs off to China.
All right, you said course not. Why not, Catherine?
Well, absolutely. I think that all land should belong to New Zealanders. If you want to own land, become a resident. Otherwise, we're just selling ourselves short and losing all our productive land for other people to control. It's really short-sighted, and foreign ownership doesn't work for the people of New Zealand.
What about if you can add value? A large part, for example, of investment from China was in new assets. So what David Shearer says, it does increase productive capacity, as they say. What do you think, Scott?
Well, can I just take up the point that Catherine made? Because unless you're tangata whenua, everybody who's watching tonight, either themselves, their parents, their grandparents, or their great-grandparents, arrived here as a foreign immigrant buying land.
Yeah, hang on, but they were
residents. And that's how this country has been developed.
Here to live.
That's how this country has been developed.
The whole point about this, nobody's got any problem about people coming to New Zealand, living here and buying land. It's the people who trade them like pork bellies on the stock exchange.
Yeah, but the problem that Labor has is that they just don't like the Chinese
All right, Scott.
names. The Labor just don't like the Chinese. And under your leadership, David,
that's a bit
you
rich,
wouldn't have done it. You wouldn't have pulled
They
the stunt
don't like
that.
the Chinese names. Give it. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'll tell you what. I did a bit of research because it surprised me to find that Canada was the biggest. Canadians were the biggest investors.
Okay, you got some names there.
So what I did was I went and had a look. And then Canada's top 20 surnames. Guess what the top one is?
What?
Lee, L-I. Guess what the second one is? Smith. Guess what the third one is? Lam, L-A-M. And in the top 20, there are 4 that are Chinese. I reckon the Chinese, they're Chinese Canadians, do you think?
What do you think about that, Catherine? What have you just heard
Well, it doesn't matter where people come from. It's the fact that they're not residents, and no other country that I've heard of that's got any common sense would sell off the land, allow it to be taken by people who are not prepared to be residents. Because we don't get value from that.
Hang on, I just want to ask before I go, are the Greens against all foreign investment?
We're not against investment of any sort, but we're against investment where there's no proper rules.
And it's Labor.
And there are no proper rules. Look at the TPPA, for example.
Of course we need foreign investment,
Absolutely.
but basically land that is ours should be owned by residents. Unless
it's not our land.
No, unless, of course it's our land.
It belongs
New
to
Zealanders'
people. It
land.
belongs to individuals.
Moron, of course it's not. It's New Zealand's land.
When you say our land, you talk about a collective
Us,
our.
the people around here
who are residents of New Zealand. Who owns your house?
All right.
Not these people, you.
All right, guys.
Look, the bottom line is simply this. If somebody can prove to us that somehow by buying our land they can make incredible gains in terms of productivity, things that we can't do ourselves, then maybe there's a case
create jobs, for example. I will come back to you on that point.
But it's counterintuitive.
Hang on, Catherine.
Totally counterintuitive.
I want to actually just because you mentioned the TPPA, and of course tens of thousands of people marched across the country on that one. Hands up those who actually went on a march. Hands up those. A few people there. Hey, maybe go to one of those people and ask why they went and how they found the experience.
We're going over here. So why did you march against the TPPA?
Oh my God, why are you asking me? Look, it's ridiculous to think that the people of New Zealand, or in fact any of the countries that are involved in it, shouldn't know what's going on.
So you're not marching against it as such, but you're against the secrecy.
How can you know what's to be against if you can't read it? I mean, you can see what's going to happen, right? There's going to be, problems for the media. There was a really good point that someone made. He was like, well, when was the last time you saw a New Zealand drama on television, aside from Shortland Street?
It's not a bad point.
Outrageous Fortune?
Yeah.
Is that something?
That's fair enough.
It was a while ago. It was, wasn't it? It was a while ago.
So how does that affect us?
Where's the culture? Where's the representation of local culture on New Zealand media that everyone can access? I don't mean that you have to pay whatever amount for a certain pay TV organiser we might all know,
Okay, all right. Who else marched around here? You marched, didn't you? You did march. And why?
It's my job to march. I'm paid to march.
I recognise him.
How did you get a job just to march?
No, the reason I marched is because the TPPA represents a total breach of New Zealand's sovereignty. I mean, basically, it's handing over rights to mainly American companies to be able to sue the New Zealand government, to be able to control our pharmaceutical system, a range of negatives. And I think that New Zealanders are waking up for it. I haven't been on a march that big for years, and I think that that was what we were seeing on the weekend.
It did seem to represent New Zealand, didn't it? Back to you, Wallace.
Hayley, thank you very much. I just want to ask you this finally. Scott, the campaign against the foreign control of Aotearoa said that foreign investment rose from 16 billion in '89 to 108 billion in 2014. A simple question, are we losing control of our country?
No, we're not, and we need to keep it in some kind of context. One of the things that the Labor Party are conveniently forgetting to tell people in this debate is that under Labor, they sold twice as much rural New Zealand to foreign investors as has occurred under the John Key government. Twice as much.
That's a good point, actually. Just a quick response from that, David.
Yeah, 400 applications to the Overseas Investment Office since 2011. How many have been turned down? Zero, absolutely zero. So I'm sorry, but when the National Party says that they are looking after New Zealanders, they don't even know, because they don't keep a register, of how much land is owned by foreigners. There's absolutely no knowledge. So actually, Scott can't even answer that with any assurance, because he simply doesn't know.
What's more, David, if you look at our iconic land, say Te Kuriapawa, Young Nick's Head, which I marched to protect, Cape Kidnappers, we have allowed foreigners who fly in their helicopters to own those places. And so we don't even respect our historic places. And we need the Overseas Investment Commission to be completely overhauled, because it's not working, we're not protecting our land, and it's just plain stupidity.
All right, I'll just leave it there. I wanted to hear what you think on Twitter, @Backbenchers TV. Do stay with us. We're talking about pay equity very soon.